awesome. Right, I'm just going to get rid of the comment off that screen. Cool.
Wonderful.
Live. Sweet. So we're just going to wait for a few people to turn up. Sounds like we've actually got it working this time around. I'm just going to...
It'll take a little minute to get over to the website and back again, eh?
Live stream is up and running on a new feed. Alright. No one's there. 2 people there. Just give me 2 seconds, I'm just getting the comments up on my computer for the new live feed. Live now.
Woohoo! We're all go. Brilliant.
Hey, cool, everyone's coming over. Alright, you're on YouTube.
Geez, we've been having a lot of problems with YouTube recently. It's not a surprise.
That
really.
sounds better. Ian Sweeney, awesome.
That's
That's
so
good to know.
good.
Thank you.
Yeah, better at listening too.
Yeah, right. Alright, here we go. Cool. So we'll just wait for everybody to come along.
Yeah.
It looks like there's 6 people over now, so that's cool. Back to the right feed. Cool. Mark, 4x4, get off my land, working, Coffs Harbour. Mark Green, Coffs Harbour. How you going, man? Steve, hello. It's coming back. It's good. Dr. Bad Vibes, back on the right feed. Hope you enjoy the rest of the videos, eh? I know you said you're up to 53. I hope you enjoy them. I reckon they get better and better as we sort of get better at editing and know how to shoot things properly with the camera and all that sort of stuff.
All the basics.
All basics. Back down on the boat. Hey Paul, how you going? Yes, the
Hi from Coffs Harbour, Mark Green, hi.
Stephen Harlow, yes, the feedback is back. Yes, the feedback is back. Does that mean it's squealing or?
Oh no.
We can't hear anything at our end, so if just let me know if that same chaos is happening on the live feed again, and we'll I don't know, we'll do some adjustments if we can figure it out. I'll just knock that down a bit. All right.
No? Oh good.
Russell
okay.
Dealub, okay, New Zealand. Oh, that's cool. Awesome. Okay, we can hear you clearly now. The rain is gone. No, but, all right, great. That's awesome. All right, cool. So what do we got? We got 26 people. So.
Coming nice and clear. Thanks.
No,
brilliant.
that's awesome. I might get started now that we've got a few people over, and we'll go from there. Eh? Other people can sort of re-watch on replay and catch up.
Yeah, yeah.
So thanks for joining us, guys. It's really exciting to have you along. We've got a lot of things to announce this time round, including a major project that we're looking to do in the Pacific. We announced it this morning with our North American live feed. So you've obviously, some of you may have seen bits and snippets of that live feed and have an idea as to what we're doing. We'd love to get your questions and go through it in a bit more detail. It's a pretty exciting project for us. We've been working on this for a while to try and make sure it happens, and it's something that we're pretty passionate about as well. Sort of getting involved in the engineering side of it as well as the actual, you know, physically doing it and getting out there in the boat. And
such a good job for Brupeg.
Yeah. And we always said Brupeg was a workboat that we wanted to actually use and do some pretty hardy things with, and it's pretty exciting that we get to do something as sort of bold as this. Yeah. Just gonna get rid of a thing on my screen. There we go. Alright, so.
And great fun being involved with the warship as well.
Yeah.
It's really good. Dane went down to Newcastle where it's based and did a tour through and talked to the guys and met all the team and did a video. It was brilliant. It's ginormous. The engine bay is massive. There's so much machinery in that thing. It's gorgeous. Yeah, they've got 5 generators, 2 main engines, a couple of compressors, all in the engine room, and they've got a separate control room, basically a little air conditioned room inside the engine room for engine controls and so on. And you'd so need it. It'd be so warm in there.
Bloody jealous.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. Really gorgeous.
So thanks very much for joining us, guys. As you're aware, I'm Damien and this is my wife Jess, our little dog Mishka. We're converting Brupeg into a polar and global expedition and research boat. She was a sunken trawler and we're doing our best to turn her into a bit of a tough little beast of a thing. So the project that we're announcing today is a project in the Pacific. We're calling it Operation Hide and Seek for a very specific reason. So in World War II there was a lot of boats sunk, a lot of oil tankers. There's 330 oil tankers that were sunk in World War II. So there's a lot of oil and fuel still stuck in a lot of those boats, and a lot of the bigger boats like the destroyers, cruisers and some of the aircraft carriers and so on carried a lot of fuel with them, and when they went down, that fuel, not all of that fuel came out of the boats, and it sort of stuck inside those boats to a large degree. And if that fuel comes out, I mean, these boats are sort of 70, 80 years old now, and they've been underwater for a while. That takes its toll on the steel, and the steel's getting a bit thin now. Sorry, I got completely distracted by that.
I just turned my phone off.
So that steel's starting to corrode, and it, has been for a number of years, but it's getting to a stage where it's too thin for these boats to be structurally sound, and they're starting to crumble. And when you get cyclones and things going through, these boats are starting to break up. When that happens, a lot of this oil and fuel could be anything from bunker C, which is a really heavy, thick oil, right through to like diesel, and then up to your avgases and things like that. They're really light and volatile chemicals. So when cyclones sort of belt through these wrecks, a lot of them are starting to get structurally not strong enough to be able to hold themselves together, and this fuel is starting to come out and go through a lot of ecosystems. And the project that we've been asked to look into is what we're calling hide and seek, is actually tracking down where these boats are. So we'll be scanning from New Zealand, from Australia right up to Micronesia, and looking for boats right through where a lot of the Allied campaigns were when the Japanese were doing their island hopping. So there's a lot of boats on both sides, Japanese and the Allies, in the Pacific theatre that went down. And there's a lot of potential fuel that can come out and cause a lot of damage. So we're looking at taking Brupeg with multi-beam and side-scan sonar and going right up through the South Pacific to track down where a lot of these potentially polluting wrecks are.
And this is working with Major Projects Foundation.
Yeah.
And it's an Australian couple who bought a warship to go and sort this out in the Pacific.
It's an ex-New Zealand Navy dive support boat. So it used to be an oil tender in the North Sea, and then the New Zealand Navy bought it and fitted it out as a dive support boat.
It's got like compression chamber and
decompression chamber
and all sorts of things. Yeah, it's amazing.
It's one of 4 ships in the world that can actually do this, what it's capable of doing. So it's a pretty rare and unique boat, and it's because of that boat that this whole project is possible. And the way that Brupeg fits in is that Brupeg is such an economical boat to drive. And it's got such long range with our huge fuel capacity for the Arctic work that we're building Brupeg for. We're able to do long stretches at sea looking for these boats. So it's a cheap boat to run, but it's also a really efficient way of actually tracking down where these boats are, so that when they take the warship, which is quite expensive to run, out to these boats, so our job is to track them down and map around the wreck. And then the warship comes along, parks, and it'll spend anywhere between a week and maybe 3 weeks at each wreck. And they go through and they take about 4,000 stills, still photography stills, all around the boat of every aspect that they can get to as a diver on these boats. And then they pile all of those photos back into a computer program that creates a 3D model. And with that, they can get a really detailed idea as to how likely that boat is to break. And they also are looking into a machine with a number of universities. They're looking into a machine that can see through tanks, scan through tanks and actually find out how much oil is in those tanks, and possibly even what type of oil it is, whether it's like a heavy fuel oil or it's a more lighter volatile chemical. So it's pretty exciting, some of the stuff that they're doing.
Sorry, I'm just looking at the comments. It is. It's really exciting. The tech is really exciting, and yeah, all of it. It's pretty brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hi Andrew, how you going, mate? Is Brupeg about the same size as Seeker? If so, you guys should work together and make a catamaran with the 2 hulls. So Dave Millen. So Brupeg is 57 feet long. I think Seeker's like 72 or something like that from memory. He's a bit bigger than us, obviously. And the boats are sort of set up quite differently. So he's obviously got sails so that he can get some longer range, not having to burn his motor the whole time. Brupeg is going where there's either no wind or there's all of the wind in the world. So sails on Brupeg is quite difficult, and consequently we decided to go, utilising engines. But in order to keep our economy down and our costs down, we actually run Brupeg on waste cooking oil. So rather than 100% diesel, we try and substitute it with a fuel compatible veg oil that we use.
Thanks, John. Thanks.
Yeah,
just Feldy Marine there.
Oh, Feldy Marine. Oh, John.
I think our secret code name is out. Bam Bam.
Thought you were going to hunt for treasure. Matt, how you doing, mate? Matt Evans, coach. I made it. Leo, fish and chips. Eat a lot of fish and chips to feel that, yeah. We should play more direct partner. John, you've been amazing, mate.
Yeah, oh my gosh.
Yeah, you've been phenomenal.
Yeah.
Leo Crawford, what is your cruising speed? What is your cursing speed? I reckon I could probably get in at least 7 to 10 swear words per minute. That would be my average cursing speed, I'd say.
Depends on the job.
Yeah, definitely depends. NFL probably don't even need a curse, you know? I don't know, welding upside down in a tank, that's definitely a solid curse job. Cruising speed is, I think we're probably about 7 or 8 knots. That's going pretty economical. But I think top speed for this is maybe 10, 11 something like that.
Yeah.
But the difference between cruise and full power, if we cruise, we use about 18 to 20 litres an hour of fuel. If we just put the hammer down, we use 63 litres an hour, and we only get about another third boat speed out of it. So it's really not worth, giving it the herbs.
So just timeline for the project. It's a changing sort of target because of all the sort of variables, both with the foundation and with us. But it's looking like it'll be next year. They're hoping to get their boat up in the Pacific 2020, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So we have to go in before because we've got to do all the preliminary scanning and everything, so then they can go in and do their part. And they're doing a lot of research trying to get it down to the smallest amount of boats that we need to scan. So it's looking like they're aiming for about 20. But there's a lot in the Pacific. In the area that we are, there's a lot, but that's about what they're aiming for.
To give you some context, there's 300, that we know of, there's 330 oil tankers that have sunk. There's about 3,000 ships that went down in the Pacific Theatre, and in the area that we're looking at, there's about 950 or 960 ships, something like that. The target, we want to get it down to a list of 20, and why I say we want to get to 20 is because the deeper the wreck, the slower it corrodes. And also,
the thicker the fuel, right?
But the deeper the water, the colder and the more pressure there is, which makes the fuel more gluggy. So if you've got a wreck at say 1,000 metres, that fuel is going to come out like tarmac almost. It's going to be like sludge that'll just sort of stay with the boat. Whereas if you've got a boat at say 20 metres, if that leaks oil, it's literally like just tipping oil into the sea. It just flows everywhere and destroys everything. So we want to prioritise which ones to go after first. So of that 900 odd boats, we're going to eliminate the ones that are too deep for us to be an immediate concern and go after the ones that we know are probably going to be the biggest concern.
Tim Pierce, what kind of sonar setup are you going to have to find targets?
Sorry, I'm going to answer that in 2 seconds. There was one from John at Valley Marine. Does that mean you'll need to have a stern crane? So, John, we're probably going to put a couple of cranes on Brupeg. We're going to put a little manual one up on the bow to lift our anchors around. We're going to have one right above me here on the back of the wheelhouse that lifts our tender up and down onto the roof. And we're probably going to have some version of a winch on the back end of Brupeg. And that's mainly so that we can, if we need to, we can lift the anchors of the warship and reposition them. So it has 4 anchors, one in each corner, and it can position itself really accurately, via a GPS over a wreck and drop a dive bell down. But those anchors, in shallow waters, those anchors sometimes need to be repositioned, and it's too difficult for that boat to be able to move over top of a wreck or something like that.
So we'll be the little boat buzzing around each anchor, lifting it up and helping reposition each one as we go around the boat.
In deeper waters where that's not a concern, they can do it all themselves, but it's only in like really shallow stuff, like say, I don't know, 50 feet, something like that a boat like Brupeg's needed, because each anchor is just under a ton, so it's not something you can do with like a rigid inflatable or anything like that. You need something that's got a bit of weight to be able to lift it up. Dr. Bad Vibes, I like the initiative, thanks. Matt Evans, coach back down the boat, recovering all that oil will be the greatest treasure for everyone.
Yeah.
And not only that, like recovering the oil is one side of it, but it stops like massive economical damage to all of these Pacific Island nations. Like if these leak, it literally just decimates their economy, and they don't have the money to solve this problem. So that's why I personally think it's really important, like to basically clean up after ourselves. We had a bit of a fist fight in the Pacific, and we kind of left a whole legacy behind that's going to start really causing some harm. So, Steve McGrath, will the organisation assist you in fitting the required sonar to Brupeg, or will it be borrowed gear? I'm not 100% certain how that's going to work out. So We do have some specific requirements around the type of sonar that we need. So we need multi-beam sonar and side-scan sonar. So that answers a question from Tim a bit later on. So we need those two types of sonar. And the organisation, the foundation, has got a lot of MOUs, or memorandum of understandings, with a lot of universities. So the universities, there's a lot of like PhD students and things that are doing research into this area, and they have a lot of gear. And it's possible that we may be able to borrow some of that gear and put it on, along with maybe a couple of PhD students to further their research or something like that. We're not 100% certain of that, but it's probably something that we couldn't afford to buy for Brupeg, so we'd have to come up with something for these guys to help them get that gear onto Brupeg in order to do the work.
It'll work out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm sure
there's a lot of people starting to get involved in the project, and so it's kind of building week on week. It's kind of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's very fluid as well. So it may end up that we buy it, or it may end up that they donate it, or it may end up that it's borrowed, or begged, or it really is fluid until we know more about what we need and how we're going to do it and so on. Back down on the boat, how will you fund it? We are community funded. So
do you mean the project though?
Let's talk about both. Okay. So Brupeg is community funded. So we basically are funded through our Patreons. Pretty much everything you see around us wouldn't be possible without the ongoing support of our patrons.
And everything that we can earn.
and everything that we can earn. We live off basically grass and beets, and we pile everything. We pile everything we can into this boat. So
it's only for a short time.
We're a single income family, and we both work sort of 60, 70 hour weeks to just, I work a 40-hour week, and then we like Jess edits most days every week, and some days she's doing sort of 14, 15-hour days to get episodes out, and then we're
normal life as well. Yeah. Kind of life just keeps going for some reason. It doesn't stop, so I can just do this bit.
I'd like to know what a normal life is like.
Yeah.
That's how we fund. Sorry, that's how we fund Brupeg, and building this project is through our patrons.
You guys.
Yeah. So you guys absolutely. The project itself, we're not 100% certain how that's going to be funded.
Well, they're going for funding now. It's a long process, and that's part of why that's one of the variables as to when the timeline is going to be, because it all depends on funding. We're supporting each other to get funding if we can.
Those guys are sort of looking at sort of governments and universities and large businesses and large donors and things like that to help fund their side of the project. And we're sort of looking more towards the community and to individuals and things along those lines. Because Brupeg is able to survive off community-based donations, whereas running a ship, for example, this ship costs tens of thousands of dollars a day to run. So it's something that you need to have large amounts of money coming in. And Brupeg is a really economical boat, and that's why we tried to go a slightly different way. So it just depends. It's all fluid.
There's another variable too, which is another piece of news that we wanted to share. Is a lot of people ask, why are we not commercially going into commercial survey? Because for us, we can't afford it. It's a lot of money just to even get the survey, to find out what it will cost to go into commercial surveys outside our realm. So, but the foundation's actually offered to pay for the guy that does all their survey work on their boat, because they're in commercial survey, and they're huge, and of course they're specialised, so it's quite detailed. He's going to actually come up and spend some time on Brupeg, and he's going to go through the boat and tell us what it'll actually cost to get into survey, which is really exciting. Whether we actually do it or not, whether it's funded or not, we're not sure, but just getting that first sort of bit of information is for us like a dream. We've been wanting to do it for so long, but we just couldn't afford it, so it's really exciting. So it feels really supportive. It's
amazing having their support behind Brupeg as well. Like just for people of that like an organisation of that calibre to sort of have you back and believe in what you're doing is really amazing. Like it's a really remarkable feeling to know that, like, because we've just been building this boat for a while, just with ourselves and with volunteers and things like that, and it's kind of, you think you're chipping away and you don't realise how much of an impact you're having, and then for someone in an organisation as big as theirs to sort of come along and say, no, we really like what you're doing and we want to be a part of this, you're kind of like, oh, holy crap, okay.
And then made it clear it's about the crew too. Yeah, because I think it makes a real difference when you've got a bit of a crazy crew. You can sort of willing to do these sorts of things, and we love the tech and the engineering, and I don't think we're ever going to stop doing that stuff. We just love it. So it's a nice combination.
So I'm just gonna actually, do you wanna talk a little bit more about the stuff, and I'll find out.
Yeah, well, Danga Marine, Stu from Danga Marine, if you know his channel, we announced it earlier in an episode, but he's thinking he's got some work to do on his boat. He's got some sandblasting and stuff to do on his hull, and where he is, it's not easy to do it, but where we are, it's really possible. So he's thinking of doing getting some stuff finished on his boat in Sydney, we're just out of Sydney, and hooning up here to be in the yard here, and hopefully be beside us for a bit. So we're really looking forward to that. So it's neat, because we're so similar in our boat. He's smaller, we're bigger, but the work itself is really similar. It's very cool.
Yeah. Ken Wangness, that's awesome, mate. Thank you very much for chucking that in.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Oh,
cheers, buddy.
Thank you.
Where are we? So, Mr. Fergus, such is the pity that you couldn't pump the old fuel out of these wrecks and fill them up with an alternative. Just a thought, one could clean up this old fuel to reuse. I actually think they do that. So they pump the oil out and literally just ship it off to a refinery, and off it goes and gets burnt in cars and whatever else.
There are ships around the world and governments that have those ships that can do that work, but the first step is getting the data so that no one can dispute that it's needed. They've already had
corrosion experts.
Corrosion experts verify the timeline. The timeline's actually really close. We're almost on it now. So within a couple of years, some of these hulls will be cracking open. So just because he's an expert in, the thickness of the metal and stuff like that, corrosion, the salt in the water, all of that stuff, like he's analysed it. So that's kind of why there's a bit of a big push actually at the moment. It's really urgent. The islands, all the islands in the Pacific are really starting to get panicky about it. So
it's one of their in order of their list of priorities that they told the foundation and so on. Climate change is first, and then potentially polluting wrecks is like number 2. Illegal fishing is sometimes up there as number 2 as well. But yeah, basically, essentially tankers and frigates and cruisers and things sitting just off their shores, upwind a bit, full of oil, ready to crack open at any stage. So it's a big deal for these guys, and it's something that, like I said earlier, they don't have the cash to solve themselves, and it has to be solved from an external source.
I hope you guys don't feel like we're pushing it on you. We're just really excited.
Yeah.
Just tell us to shut up. We've had enough about it. This is really interesting.
Sorry, Leo Crawford, how does the veggie oil work? So Brupeg has a modified fuel system. So basically we get veggie oil. We've got an episode, I can't remember what number it is, 60-ish, something like that, making veggie oil. And basically what we do is take raw waste cooking oil from like fish and chip shops and things like that. We take all of the water out of it, and we do a crackle test to make sure we've got it to the stage where it's essentially got no water in it. We filter it down to 1 micron, and then we can store that in our fuel tanks. And we have to have our fuel tanks specially painted so that we don't have any mild steel contact with the oil, because if we do have contact with mild steel, the oil oxidizes and it becomes useless as a fuel. Once we've got the oil processed and in a suitable tank, we can then heat it to 76 degrees Celsius or more, and then pump it straight into our Cummins 855 diesel, and the engine is capable of running on that fuel.
As long as it doesn't cool down, as long as it stays warm.
So the engine has to be up to operating temperature. So you start up on diesel, get it up to operating temperature, and then you switch over to 100% waste cooking oil, filtered waste cooking oil. You can run for as long as you need to on that, so long as you have the motor under load. If you start idling and things like that, you need to swap back to diesel.
It's a bit of work to run it,
It's
a bit of effort.
It's a bit of work to run it, but in saying that, if we're steaming for say 5 days or something like that, we start up for 10 minutes on diesel, get the motor warm, switch over to oil, and we don't switch back for another 5 days. So the difference in cost, it's about, if we fill Brupeg with diesel from empty to full, it's about 45 grand when we have all of our tanks set up the way we need them. And if we fill with veggie oil, it's about 3.5 grand. So massive difference.
Crazy difference, yeah.
And it's carbon neutral as well. So like, aside from the cost savings alone is just phenomenal. But the flip side is you're actually not doing any massive damage to the environment. There is an impact. It has slightly higher nitrous oxide levels, and but apart from that, it has a lot lower like particulates. It's better for the engine under the right circumstances. It's better for the engine.
Yeah, if it's done properly.
Yeah, if it's done properly. So
there's lots of truck engines around the world, particularly in Europe that have done this. I think there's only one other boat that we know of that's converted to run on vegetable oil. That's not biodiesel, different thing.
Yeah, biodiesel is where you modify the oil to become literally diesel, and you can burn it in any old diesel engine. We haven't done that. We've just filtered the oil and we've modified the fuel system in the engine to take waste cooking oil.
So it's an experiment, and we may find out that parts of the engine seals or something like that, something can't handle it, and we replace them. We may even have to at some point get a new motor if it doesn't work, but we're willing to go through it because we think it's just so worth it, and it's really interesting too. So it's all new to us really.
And I'm an
learning as we go.
For those that don't know, I'm an engine reconditioner. So if I need to pull the engine apart and completely rebuild it, I'm really not afraid of that. That's not a big deal in my world at all. And an engine rebuild kit for this motor is about $1,500. So it's an incredibly worthwhile experiment. If it doesn't work, we haven't lost a lot, and if it does work, we've gained a phenomenal
huge amount. Huge capacity.
Right, so Dame, will they give you credits for fuel for the material you help recover? I don't know, probably not. It's not us or the foundation that's going to be actually pulling the oil out of these boats. Our job is pretty much just to find the boats. The foundation's job is to figure out which boat is the highest priority in terms of breaking apart. And then it's handing over the evidence to the governments and to the boat owners and things like that to basically give them the responsibility of, your boat or a boat under your flag is about to cause pollution. Here you go, here's all the details to deal with that.
Or whatever organisation is willing to do the work. And apparently they can use it, so it'll be interesting to see what happens, but it's a wee way down the road.
Fowley Marine, will you need to consider increasing your fuel tanks if you'll be spending much time servicing the ocean recovery and the dive sites? John, so at the moment we've got 9,000 litres of fuel, 7,000 litres of water. When we go to sea to do this, we're probably going to be fitting a water maker. So that will allow us to put all the tanks back to diesel, back to veggie oil, which will be 16,000 litres of fuel. When we go down to the ice, we need to increase our fuel capacity. And we're going to be building 2 tanks, one on either side of the engine bay. And we'll also be carrying bladders on the deck. So all up, we're going to have 27,500 litres of fuel.
Amazing amount.
Which is enough for us to basically be able to steam down to Antarctica, get frozen in and winter over, and then steam all the way back at the end of the freezing period. So
whenever we talk about this, there's always a bit of a confusion. We won't be using the veggie oil once we hit a certain temperature.
Yes.
We'll be using
winter grade diesel.
Winter grade diesel, So when we're closer to the Antarctica, there's no way we can use it. So it's about just getting
the long trip. It's about temperature. So in the tropics, you're fine to run veggie oil, but when it gets cold, you have to use high sulfur diesel. So it's just physics basically at that point. Sorry, I'm starving at the same time.
We'll need to stay afloat.
What's the minimum depth Brupeg needs to stay afloat? Probably, I don't know actually what she draws. Probably somewhere 6 to 9 feet, something like that. But I honestly don't know. I've never had the boat in water, so
find out, eh?
Yeah. I bet we're going to find out.
Hopefully it won't sink when we put it in.
Probably swear quite a bit when we find out. Are you going to need upgrades to the power generation and batteries for the new project? So we think we can get away without having to modify anything. So our generator is a 12.5 kVA generator, and our batteries, most of the load on the batteries is not going to be like real heavy, hardcore load. It's going to be basically one fridge is probably the biggest load on the batteries, and then it's computers and lights and a few bits and bobs like that. There's not actually a massive amount of load on the house bank. Most of the time the generator will be running, and at night or whenever we need a shutdown, we'll be able to turn the generator off, and then whatever we need overnight, like the fridge and maybe lights and stuff like that, that'll all be house bank. So to answer your question, I think we're okay in terms of design at the moment, but if we're not, we'll probably put a bigger generator in, something along those lines. But for now, I think we're going to be okay. Fowley Marine, will all these cranes and winches be hydraulic, John? Yes, we will. Pretty much all of the lifting gear will be hydraulic, John. Dave Milan, is the project taking inventory and status only, or will you recover oil from the wrecks? So no, Brupeg's job is to find the wrecks.
Data collection.
Data collection, basically. So we have to find the wreck, because oftentimes these wrecks, the position that's known about these wrecks is often in the heat of a battle. You know, you might have a fighter pilot that's just shot the crap out of a boat, it's sunk, and they said, oh, the position is approximately such and such. And that can be anything up to a couple of kilometres off from where it actually is. So our job is to actually find the boat and really accurately pinpoint GPS locate it. And we need to scan quite a distance around it, because when these boats went down, you have to remember they've normally gone down in a hail of bullets and bombs and torpedoes and all sorts of stuff. And back in World War II, those ordnance weren't the most reliable in the world, so not all of them went off. So if you've got a wreck, it's often surrounded by quite a stack of bombs and things like that that are still potentially quite dangerous. So we need to map out where they are. We need to know where those bombs are, because when the big boat comes along and sticks its 4 anchors down and lays the anchor cable, you know, along the bottom of the floor, of the ocean floor, we need to make sure it's not going to be putting a cable across a bomb that may potentially, you know, blow up an anchor cable, or, you know, fire an anchor off into the distance or do some serious damage. So our job is to map out the boat and around the boat. The ocean recovery comes along and parks right beside it and sends a team of divers and ROVs down to go right around the boat and get enough photos to create a 3D model of it, and then also check the tanks for oil. At that stage, the foundation then submits all of the information across to governments and to responsible parties and so on to actually potentially deal with the wrecks. So the Operation Hide and Seek is literally finding these boats and figuring out how do we stick a big boat right next to it.
We're like the scouts. We're going first.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're going to scout ahead and find out the first bits of information.
It's so crazy that this issue hasn't had greater coverage, or more organisations have been working on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. It's like a hidden problem, you know, like these boats have gone under the surface of the ocean, and it's kind of people have forgotten about it because it happened so long ago in most people's minds.
A lot of people dive them though. Like,
yeah.
They're known in that world, but not in what's needed.
And even the divers, like a lot of them, they dive these sites, and a lot of them haven't connected the dots that, you know, potentially these things can break apart and leak oil, because I mean, I guess most of them probably don't even realise the potential problem that sort of exists there. So yeah, you're right. It's crazy that there's not more known about this, but
and that's pretty much what's going to start happening. Is it's going to become much more public.
They will start leaking. They will start breaking open, and it will become something that is very hard to ignore. So we're trying to preempt that, rather than having, you know, the oil wash up and destroy mangroves. We're actually trying to preempt it and say, well, that one's likely to go, and that one can wait a year or two, and that one, you know, like we actually want to come up with a bit of data so we can start putting some science around it. I know it didn't have a swimboard at the back, but ever considered one?
Yeah, Michael, we're that's for Brupeg, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. We just can't sort of decide on a design. There's pros and cons on different designs that we're looking at, but definitely that's part of the doors at the back. The little gate at the back is going to go out onto a platform. Definitely.
Brad Scott, how do you get oil out of a tank? That's a steel tank that's underwater? There's a couple of ways. So if the oil is liquid, like let's say that the boat's at, I don't know, 30 metres or something like that, and the diesel or oil in it is still quite liquid, you can pretty much just put a hole in the side and start pumping it out. If it's a deeper wreck, like let's say it might be 300, 400 metres, something like that, where it's quite cold, quite dark, and there's a lot of pressure, and that oil's much more solid, you can do what's called hot tapping. So they pierce a hole through the tank, normally at the top, because the oil floats to the top. So you pierce a hole through the tank, and it's called a steam lance. So it's essentially heated up with steam, and it basically liquefies the oil again, and then you can start vacuuming it out of the tank. So it's not necessarily fast, easy, or cheap, and that's why possibly that's why these wrecks have been ignored for so long, is because if you're the country or company or, you know, organisation that's responsible for that boat, it's, you know, it's something you want to try and postpone as long as you can, I guess. So that's our understanding. Again, that's not something that we're going to be getting into. Our job is just to figure out where they all are and what ones are the most likely to cause dramas. What's the time frame for this? Do you want to answer that one?
Yeah, it's a sort of a changing target at the moment. It's because of the variables like funding and things like that for the foundation. So it's looking like it's next year, but they're wanting their big boat up there in 2020. That's where they're kind of aiming for. That's what they're thinking. But we have to go before them, and quite a bit before them. So it'll be. I'm assuming it'll be next year.
Will the government or Navy pay for this? pay you as well. Definitely not if we're not in survey, so that's we can't be paid.
We're
commercially.
volunteering.
Yeah, we're voluntary basically. So that's why Patreon's really important to us, because that's how Brupeg is able to be paid to do this sort of work. However, the governments and navies and those sort of organisations can pay the foundation. So the foundation is set up as a charity, and they're able to have like Department of Foreign Affairs and things like that. Those guys are able to fund the foundation in that way. So indirectly, yes, there's ways of governments and so on paying for this sort of work.
I almost missed the earlier feed. Oh, that's cool. Almost missed this one.
Hi, power lady, show your arm biceps. What if you sail over the edge of the disc? Rishka is going to be a sulky old sea dog. I can't wait to see him with the wind in his hair on the trailer ship. Yeah, you need crazy for a boat. I speak from too many years of experience.
Yeah.
Bruno, hi from Sweden. How you going?
Hello.
Just Alex, how is Jess's health holding up?
Yeah, I'm as always, I'm really stable on my meds. It keeps my heart right and my blood pressure and everything, because it's a brain-body problem, a neurological problem. But I've gone down recently, so I'm starting to increase my meds. So you'll probably see me a little bit more in the chair, in the wheelchair, and a bit more on oxygen and things like that. But we've been really busy, so it does take it out of me. But yeah, I'm okay. Thanks.
Leo, when do you guys think you'll be in the water?
Yeah, that's really, it depends on a few things. We've got to get the stabilisers built. I'm actually going to, with Dan's help, going to tackle that myself. We're going to work on that together. I really want to get my hand back in some welding. I have to kind of sit for long periods to get my body to equalise, so I can stand or do something physical. But we're going to sort of spend a bit of time and slow down and spend a couple of weeks actually enabling me to do that, because I'm just really frustrated. I can't sort of do the physical work anymore. It's driving me nuts actually.
She used to work harder and longer hours than I did on this boat when we first started, so yeah.
Yeah, when you've got a good body, eh?
Yeah.
So we've got to get that done, so we're going to start on that. So we're thinking 2 to 3 months, but a lot depends on, what happens with the survey, for commercial survey. Once we know what that is, which way we're going, for sure, that we'll have more of an idea. But yeah, 2 to 3 months would be ideal. Of course, it's always longer than that. So.
John Fowley Marine, will this mean you are now able to install your preferred engine fuel system other than the interim system you currently have, John? For now, we're going to leave the interim system. The plan is basically, we're still going with dump and run, so getting the boat up and operational and so on as is. And basically that means right now we're diesel capable. We're not veg oil capable on the boat yet. That said, we have put in like all of the preliminary bits that we need to make it a veg oil boat. The generator has a water-cooled exhaust which will be used for veg oil heating when needed. The main engine, we need to build stainless fuel lines and so on, like heated stainless fuel lines and so on, to run veg oil on that. But for now, we're still going to stay with the diesel interim system, and over time that will be changed out. But we'll do that in the water. We'll make sure we can always run the boat and then swap it over in the water pretty much. Stephen Harlow, are you guys going to have any permanent crew working on Brupeg? If so, I'll work for food. I've got the same arrangement myself.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
Two spots. We're hoping to have four people. So yeah, it's if anyone is interested, and I mean seriously interested, get in touch, because at some point we're going to move into that. So yeah, definitely. Mini
builder, I'm also interested in helping out at crew at some point. I'd love to help work on Brupeg, but I'm a bit busy at the moment. Yes, you've got your own boat to get going, mate.
And it means permanently crew might mean a 3-month stint or whatever. It's and always, if people are welcome, if they want to do a short stint as well. But permanent crew is going to be really important.
Tony, with all the tanks now sealed up, how do you check for leaks when you're placed in the water? So we check for leaks before we go in the water. So the tanks, we actually just, this afternoon, we pressure tested our first of 6 tanks.
Yeah.
And I found a leak. But anyway, so what we do is we basically go through and pressure test all of them. We know if they're holding pressure from the inside, they're not going to leak when we go in the water. So all of the tanks get tested that way prior to the boat moving. And then when we go in the water, we'll go around all of the welds and everything with a fine-tooth comb and have a real good look. We'll hang in the sleeve wings for an hour or so and just check everything, make sure all the bits and bobs are working and so on before we back out and go off into the marina. That way, if anything happens, we can pretty much just give the signal and they can lift us straight back up and we can fix whatever it is. But
every one of our systems that needs a professional check gets a professional check, and that includes the welding. So we actually have qualified guys who have checked as we've gone along each hatch that we put in and stuff like that. That's been checked, and they taught us how to do it. So so there'll be lots of checks. Every area of the boat that needs a professional check gets one.
Off-topic question: is Ryan a giant or I'm assuming Damien tiny? How do you want to answer that one?
Ryan's ginormous. What's 6'8"?
6'8" or something like that.
Yeah.
He smacks his head all through the boat, and it's not short.
Ryan's not around at the moment. He's kind of doing his own thing at the moment.
Yeah.
But for the last year or so, we keep thinking, like helmet, so he stops hitting his head. But he's got this like sixth sense. He just knows when to bend past something. That's amazing. No, he's a big dude. Yeah.
Adrian Swanson, hi from Ireland. Love your channel. Thanks, buddy.
Thank you.
Andrew Hilliard, Andrew was saying that he had trouble with diesel at cold temps. So
of course, all of that
diesel.
stuff. Yeah. There's a lot to learn.
So the tanks are going to have, Andrew. So the tanks are going to have heating coils, and the fuel lines are all going to be heated as well. So even when we're running on winter grade diesel, we'll still be able to heat all of that diesel as well. So just a few. Because we have to do that for the veggie oil, and we'll still have all of that gear sitting in the tanks and all that sort of stuff when we fill with diesel. So it'll be interchangeable like that. Hi from Melbourne. Where are we? Keeping the diesel warm for use will be a big problem. We'll have the veggie oil heaters will be running even when there's diesel. Or will the generator be running off veggie oil as well, Lee? Lee, the generator will eventually be running off veggie oil, but to start with, everything's going to be diesel, and then we're gradually going to start moving engines and systems across to be veggie oil. The generator, we have plans in the wings basically to run all diesel engines on Brupeg via veggie oil, mainly so that we can keep one fuel. Like essentially, we might have a couple of thousand litres of diesel, and we might have 25,000 litres of veggie oil. If we have to run the generator off diesel and the engine off veggie oil, we have to start chopping and changing with fuel types quite a bit. So
it's actually quite complicated because of the heating and the keeping the fuel and keeping it bug free. All of it is quite a lot. Hi from Melbourne.
When was he riding back?
We're not sure. Yeah, we're not sure. It's the Brupeg's kind of that kind of boat. People come and go, so we're not sure. Yeah, he's pretty busy with his own stuff, but we'll let you know as soon as it happens.
Bunyip Dan, is this project just focusing on fuels and oils, or will you be looking at cleaning up other toxic World War II waste? I think some World War II subs use mercury for ballast. Now that is not very nice stuff. Yeah,
that's a really good point. Bombs is something that...
So two main projects that they're looking at. So Operation Hide and Seek is basically just looking for wrecks that are what's known as potentially polluting wrecks, PPWs. So that's it's generally fuels and oil. And they're generally in shallow water because they're the most critical to corrosion and also to damaging the environment if they do break open and that sort of thing. And the other project that the foundation is looking at is possibly unexploded ordnance, so basically bombs that haven't gone off that are littered across the floor of atolls and things like that. They in themselves cause quite a bit of chaos and damage, so that's the other project that the foundation is looking into as well. So I don't know about things like mercury.
No, but it's really great you brought it up.
Yeah.
I hadn't even thought of that. Of course there's that. There is aircraft fuel.
Yeah.
Some of the boats are holding barrels of that.
Yeah.
Apparently they're not so worried about that because of course it disperses, but then it goes into the food chain. It's toxic. So there's a lot to. I think there's going to be a lot that comes out of this project actually. It'll be interesting to see where it goes, but thanks for that.
Yeah. Leo, are you going to redo the jet tender tubes with Hypalon or PVC, etc., and any more news on the jet tender? So, yes, the tubes are going to be aluminium. They're not going to be rubber or PVC or anything like that. We're going to be getting sheets of aluminium folded up into tubes, and we're going to be welding them all the way around. We're also, I have now got my welder set up to be able to weld aluminium, which is something that is very new. I'm learning how to do alloy.
But you're not sure that It might be too
It
powerful.
might be too powerful.
Because it's 3 mil.
Yeah, so the aluminium's only 3mm thick, so my welder might be a bit too grunty for doing aluminium, but you know, we'll learn and we'll see if it's possible. I'll get some scrap 3mm and just sort of see if I can weld it without it blowing holes in it and, you know, catching on fire on me.
And it looks like we've got possibly an engine out of a jet ski, but it's just kind of, we're not sure, but apparently it's intact and the steering and everything is intact, so it'd be a great opportunity if we can, but we're just trying to sort our funds and see if we can manage it at this stage.
Hi guys, back again.
Thanks, Brad.
Just finished work from Adam. How you going, buddy? That's awesome. Thank you, Brad. This is becoming a pattern, mate.
Oh, thank you.
No, Loxton, Popston, nice one, Brad. Missed you all the way. Where are we? Have you chosen an anchor yet? Yes and no.
Type.
Yeah, we've chosen a type. We're going to go with a Rockner style anchor. Mainly,
Rockner copy.
Yeah, it's going to be a Rockner copy probably, but.
Because original Rockners are incredibly expensive.
Yeah, so because we need it, the anchor we need is 110 kg,
and it needs to be really, really good holding. So
yeah, to buy that anchor, we got quoted $6,000 Australian for a Rockner. So
yeah, we just went quiet. We just didn't even talk to each other. We just knew straight away that it's ridiculous.
That wasn't happening. My immediate thought was there's about $500 of steel in there. I reckon I could build that. But
we actually were thinking about that. And it's just timing. We just don't have the time.
Yeah, so we're probably going to buy one, but it won't be a Rockner, but it will look very similar, I guess. We've had a lot of experience with them and just found them just amazing. They just blow anything else out of the water.
Yeah, I just want something that's really good in a storm, and we're going to hit storms all the time, particularly, south. And
also, so Brupeg is theoretically able to anchor quite safely on a 70 kg Rockner. We're going to be going with 110 kg just so that we just don't even have to think about it. We put it over the side and we just know that it's not going to let go unless
hence a crane for lifting things at the front. It's not going to be manhandled easily unless an emergency, I suppose.
Hi from the east coast of US. How you going?
Hi.
I'm glad he's getting more and more. I'm glad he's getting more and more camera time. I still think they need to have a Mishka cam.
Yeah, we'll get there definitely.
A whole episode on the day of the life of Captain Mishka.
Definitely.
Are you guys going to be visiting the South Pacific? Jess, you have to visit Bora Bora and Ningo Atoll.
Right.
Okay, cool. Yeah, good idea. Heat the diesel. Quick question: when did all this start? Was it something that you've wanted to do forever, or did the opportunity to buy Brupeg provide the inspiration?
No, very, very calculated and deliberate. When I was 6, I lived in a port city, south in New Zealand, really cold, big ships, big boats, gorgeous, and my grandfather worked on the ports, and I fell in love with trawlers when I was 6. I've decided then and there I wanted to live on a trawler and travel the world on one. But I didn't want to do fishing, didn't want to go down that road, so I dropped the idea. And then when Dave and I got married, about 2 weeks after we got married, we both discovered we wanted to live on water, not land preferably, and tried a yacht. But then we found out we both actually really love the engineering and the size and the power of trawlers. So for us, it's a really romantic, in a way, thing, that just the power and the design and the space and all of that, what they're capable of is what really inspires us. So, I don't know, it'd be 8 years ago now, we started looking.
Yeah.
And because we don't have much money, we have a lot of family commitments, so we haven't had a lot of money over the years. So we couldn't find anything that was what we needed. A wooden boat would break up. A smaller boat wouldn't handle what we needed. So we kept looking.
Sorry, also on that, I don't know anything about wood. And wood boats always sort of scared me a bit because I don't have the skills to be able to repair it the way to keep them going, and you do need a certain set of skills that I don't have, but steel and fiberglass and things like that, I'm able to do that, so that's why we kind of always veered towards steel.
It had to be strong. We knew it had to be strong and able to be made stronger. So. Yeah, so when we found Brupeg, it was out of our price range, so luckily over about 6 months it came down until we could afford it, and we decided to pay scrap value for it. So if we started the project, we were too much in over our heads, and we couldn't sort of cope with it. We could sell it for scrap, but luckily we managed, and we're here. So yeah.
And like we managed to get Brupeg going. So we've been building Brupeg for 4 years now. And we only started recording and putting things up on YouTube maybe 18 months ago.
Yeah.
So a huge amount of the work actually happened prior to starting doing the video series and things like that. And I'm kind of glad it worked out today. Like, we had some visitors come on the boat today. Hi guys, if you're watching.
Yeah. Hey.
We had some visitors come on the boat today, and I was telling them, you know, it's like there was a good couple of years of just being able to do the work without anybody really watching, and it was good because I could make all the mistakes back then and figure out how to do stuff, and all the chaos happened back then, and I sort of know what I'm doing now and a lot of the stuff I'm touching, so yeah. No, it was nice.
We were commuting 5 hours one way, round trip, 10 hours, a town we were living in for Dane's work, so being able to live on the boat while we're doing it is really hard. It's not easy. It's noisy and smelly and cold and hot and all of that, but we're here and we can work on it. Whenever we get a spare minute, we're working on it, and you know, it's brilliant. Yeah, so it's a long dream for us, really.
Yeah, so I'm just going to jump to a couple of questions. So where are we up to? Yes, okay, cool. Adam, did you get Ryan's new gear shifter yet, Damo? No, not yet, buddy. Phil Wilkie, I can't say the word, but I love is it Hey Mattel on the wall? Where did it come from?
Yeah, my family in New Zealand sent it. Yeah, for Dane's birthday recently. It means, it's a Maori symbol, and it's usually made in bone, but they found it and they thought Dane would love it. It means safe travels, particularly across an ocean, so it's so beautiful.
So that's got pride of place in the lounge here.
Yeah.
Right, what have we got? There's a jet tender for $2,000 in Townsville on Facebook.
Cool.
Michael, are you able to send me, I don't know if YouTube allows it, but if can you send me a link of that? That sounds quite cool. I'd love to look at that. Nigel Smith, keep up the great work, guys. Thanks
Nigel.
mate. G Bone 1, I think. Great, that's great. Rockner are good. I finished my 75 last year and inherited a 52 footer 2. Great project you have. Thanks very much, mate.
Thanks.
Simon, hi from Brisbane. Very inspirational. Keep it up, guys. Thanks very
Simon.
much. Cheers, mate. John, Valley Marine. I just signed up with Major Projects Foundation.
Oh.
Many thanks to you for introducing them to me. I'll be following you both with all my interest. John, that's awesome.
Brilliant, yeah.
I'm glad you decided, Loxon, I'm glad you decided to share your dream with the world. You guys really should know how much goodwill and happiness you are spreading. That's awesome. Thanks, buddy. So actually, I just want to touch on that. John, one of our, he's an awesome dude. He supports Brupeg a huge amount. Valley Marine. He's just signed up to Major Projects Foundation. So if you're keen to find out more about them and what they can do, just Google majorprojects.org.au, and you can sort of see all about what they're doing. And
they're a big team.
They're a big team.
They're growing all the time. It's very cool.
And the flip side is they're a big team, but the whole thing is funded by one couple, Paul and Wilma. They bought the boat. They put the team. They're paying for everything at the moment. And it's kind of amazing that they've put everything on the line to have this happen.
I love the boldness of them. You know, they were diving. They saw the bubbles of oil coming out from one of the wrecks they were diving. Talked to the locals, and the locals said, we've tried everything. No one will help us. No government will take responsibility. We don't have any help. And he went home and he brought this big ship. And
they bought a fucking warship.
I'll fucking do it then. Yeah. And I'll put a team together, and I'll come to, talk to Brupeg, and it's amazing. It's so cool. It's nice being around that kind of boldness and bravery.
Sorry, I'm just going to jump into a couple of questions here. So, where are we? I think there'll be an anchor building video pretty soon. Maybe.
You maybe.
Shannon Wise, are you guys getting something from the t-shirts? I brought one this morning, so I hope so. I actually put the price right down on the t-shirt, so we only make a couple of bucks off each shirt, but I've done that on purpose. I'd rather people actually have the shirts and support it than, for it to be a $40 t-shirt and us to make a huge amount of profit. So
that's so cool you've got one. I love it.
It's awesome that you've got one.
Yes,
we do get a couple of bucks out of it, but we're doing it so that people can have the shirts more than anything else. So thanks very much.
Thank you.
Really awesome.
Yeah, that's so neat. I think.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
We actually haven't got any shirts yet. We ordered our own the other day, so that's pretty cool.
We've been really busy.
Yeah.
So some other news. So back to the polar stuff. So we've decided 2020 is our season. That's the southern summer. That's what we'd like to get down to Antarctica. We're assuming it might throw out to the next season, so 2021. But 2020 is what we're aiming for, to actually do the trip down there. So it's really exciting. It's so exciting. There's so much to do. So and also the reef is definitely our first port of call. That's 40 nautical miles north from where we are, and we're going to be there for a week and a half, 2 weeks,
Yeah.
and that's just going to be photography, diving, that sort of stuff. Testing the boat, testing its, how we cope on the boat, how the boat copes with us, that sort of thing. And we're hoping to get down to Harvey Bay for the humpback season. There's a nursery in the bay there. There's a nursery, and the whales come in, and if you're really careful and don't disturb